WSS, which is Women Against Sexual Violence and State Repression. It's largely a network of women activists and women organizations all over India in that sense. So we are a national coalition network of women activists. WSS is doing a lot of work in Chhattisgarh actually. We have regular fact-finding teams. We have people who stay in those areas, like we have activists who stay in Raipur, Raigad, other places, and they are like constantly in that same place. And so it helps in a way to keep continue with the fact findings that we go for, because we get contacts, we get more access, not access to the chief minister, but or to even an ACP or something, you know. It's very difficult. I went to Bastar, Bijapur in January, and in May I went to Raigad, which is Raigad is like North Chhattisgarh, and Bijapur and others are South Chhattisgarh, Bastar area. So the point is like the red corridor or whatever they'll call it, it's largely in the South Chhattisgarh area and not so much in the north. So when I was in the north, I didn't experience much of the so-called Maoist influence or any kind of shadow of Maoism in that particular area. But the situation is equally bad in both places. Raigad and Chhattisgarh, Raigad and other areas and all the villages that we went to, it's the coal mining hub, and we have, just one small thing in the middle, there's so much to say and so much to talk about, you know, so I may just keep losing track here and there, so please bear with me. Okay. So what I was saying is in Raigad, the mining is going on, and we covered a lot of villages in our 4-day visit. We couldn't even stop for lunch or anything because it's just impossible. It's all barren, full of coal dust. You have Jindal refineries, you have government SECL factories. All the water bodies are taken away because the water from the dams are built and all the water is diverted to the refineries where they needed to cool the coal or something, because there's some washing process also which happens with the coal. So water is gone, land is gone, the entire roadsides and towns are full of coal dust, you know. So that's happening in North Chhattisgarh. Why I'm talking also about it is because when you look at Bastar, you can see where it is going. And when you are in Raigad, you can see where they are going, which is coming to Delhi as probably the working labor class people, or you know, just flying rickshaws or something. So it's all cyclic in a sense. Raipur, suddenly you get to Raipur and it's like a completely different place altogether. I went to Raipur in my second trip from Raigad, but yeah. A lot of things I wrote down, previous speakers also talked about. I will start by disagreeing with the things which were saying in the beginning. You know, things that are happening in Kashmir, Chhattisgarh, Manipur, Nagaland, or any other tribal areas, or these kind of places in our country. But these are exactly the things which make me think that this is probably not any country, and definitely not my country. If it was my country, I wouldn't have to see all this happening around me. But so that was there. Secondly, the things that are happening in Chhattisgarh are not something new. Maybe we can take some refuge in the fact that the government, the police don't have new strategies. Their strategies are bad, their torture mechanisms are unspeakable, but these are not new things. Setu Himla got killed because he had a same name as a Maoist. This was happening in Punjab in the 80s. Anybody with a name which resembled somebody's would be picked up and something. We have marches, at least the film, to that also shows how this works. They have similar techniques of going into villages, raping women, looting stuff. They just lay waste everything when the army goes inside the villages, you know. They enter the villages in thousands. And we heard that at times, like, the entire village area would be covered with the paramilitary. The paramilitary and so the paramilitary consists of a lot of people. It's CRPF, it's Cobra, it's DRG, district level police force, it's the local police. Then it has this vigilante groups like Samajik Ekta Manch and Salva Judam and everything. So what it does, it also makes it very difficult to assign blame. You know, CRPF will say no, we went, but we were not doing that, the other police was doing that. The police will say no, the CRPF was doing that. So this is the kind of techniques that they use, and these are old techniques. Not really anything new. Sir was earlier talking about how the war is fought on the bodies of people, right? But it's actually fought on the bodies of women more. And it's very difficult when you go for a fact-finding and you have to document those injuries. And you have to take pictures. You have to make sure you write down in your notebook, like whether it was the left hand, right hand, what was happening, how open it was, or, you know, was the bullet shot from close range or, you know, far away. So for this we need to document everything. But that process is very difficult. I found it very difficult because when I went into Bijapur, we just heard that there was an encounter which happened 2 days back. And so the bodies were coming to the villages, back to the families on the day that we arrived in Bijapur. So we decided we'll go, and because it doesn't happen with fact-finding teams, usually we go after the incident. We hear something from newspapers and from journalists, like someone who go and report, and then we hear something and then we decide to go and do a fact-finding. In Bastar, what happens, no matter how much preparation you do, no matter what lists you make, you go there and you have to abandon all that because you'll have 5 more new cases to investigate. So that happened to us also. We went, okay, last 2 months, these all incidents have happened. In October 2015, another WSS team which had gone, they had first broken this news of military going and laying waste in the villages and everything, and how it has restarted and in such an intense form. So we went again in January, and I think we are going again, and we've already gone again, and now the 4th trip we are going to do as WSS. So, so once we got there, actually before we got to Bijapur, we got call from Soni Sori saying 2 people from Bijapur district, 2 men have run away and reached Soni Sori, Sukma, and said that there is a combing operation going on in their village, and they have somehow managed to run away. Now, combing operations, like I said, what happens, the entire paramilitary will enter the village. They will go into the houses, raid, bear, take all their food, take all their goodies and ration, and if they eat it, and whatever they don't eat, they throw it. They'll throw the rice, they'll cut it, burn it, do whatever. They just don't leave it for the people to consume, you know. So they don't want people, they in a sense want to tell people that you either die or you leave. Okay, and when I was talking about mining earlier, this is the thing that even South Bastar is a area very rich in natural resources, right? And I don't know whether you guys have heard, but today the Rajya Sabha passed the afforestation bill. I haven't read it completely because it was just passed today morning, but what they are basically saying is that other parties were saying that there should be a provision that when afforestation happens, the government takes consent of the people. That provision was not included. None of the other provisions which other parties wanted to incorporate in the afforestation bill was put in there. So now, now the government can go and start afforestation exercise. And now what happens is that afforestation sounds very nice. Deforestation, opposite afforestation, so very good. But what happens, as is usual with states, with governments, they will use it as a tool to push people out of their homes. Because now, and especially with this today's bill, they don't have to take people's consent. They can over what kind of crops to grow, what kind of trees to plant, which land to use, whether to use the forest land or use the land which is lying fallow. They don't have to take any consent. So now they can go and do anything in any land. And if they start planting crops which will not probably survive in that region, or if villagers will not reap any benefit from it, so they will have to move away, the way I say it, look for means of other livelihoods, because their land in the name of afforestation will be taken away. So what happens is that, again coming back to combing operations, police goes in there, rape women. So 2 men had run away and reached Sonisori, and before we reached Bijapur, they called us, Sonisori, and said we are having a press conference, and since your team is already here, why don't you all come to Sukma? But for some reason we couldn't do that, so we sent a small team to Sukma because we were 24 people. So we sent 4 people to Sukma who went, attended the press conference, met those men, and came back the next day to go to their village, which was the Nendra village, which was again in Bijapur, where we were staying also. Similarly, the moment we reached Bijapur, that's another story how we reached Bijapur. But so we reached Bijapur and we got to learn that there was another combing operation going on in another village nearby, and this encounter killing. So we now had 3 new cases to cover. So we left all the things that we had made a list of, and we decided to do that because we lost a lot of time in traveling. It took us, what happens is, like Kapil also said, once you are going inside Chhattisgarh, they won't let you go in. There are army camps. We've read enough stories by now since, like, last one, since October, and I'm sure we all are reading what is going on in terms of facts. So the police doesn't let you go in. They will delay you unnecessarily in the name of checking or saying that we can't provide you security, so you can't go in, making these kind of excuses. There are camps before and after each village, and these are huge big cantonment areas that they have created. They will ask you to stop at each place. You have to give them reasons and tell them who you are, why you have come here, everything. So it took us, we decided not to go through the main road, which would have taken 5 hours and plus whatever delay they caused. We decided to go through the jungles, and that took 2 days. So, and this is just to avoid the camps, so that we at least go inside. So you see how difficult it is just to even enter this space. How isolating it is, that you can't go in, the phones don't work there except BSNL in Bijapur, you don't get networks, okay, nothing. But you have big billboards of Modi and saying Swachhta Abhiyan or Beti Bachao or something, that you will find big boards. In fact, even in the remote villages of Raigad also you found all these toilets and Swachhta Abhiyan things written on every house. So we went to cover the encounter killings. What we found was that all the 4 belonged to this one village. They were shot in the morning. They were apparently going to the village market, another village nearby, which had a market, to buy groceries. When they were passing through a jungle, the police or the army was lying in wait for some reason, because they apparently do combing operations also in the early mornings. So when they were passing through the jungle, these people, they got shot. 4 of them died. One young girl managed to escape, but then she was taken away somewhere by the villagers, and we were not allowed to meet her. But we saw the dead bodies, very badly shot. It didn't look like it was like some Maoists who were going somewhere and they got killed in a sudden encounter with the army. These were all close range shots, you know. So there were people, very, very young people. The men were, say, 20, 24. The girls were even younger. One girl was probably 14, 15. The police took the bodies to the hospital, refused to give it back to the people, families. So a lot of villagers went. Then they said, you give us, what? How much money? 3,000 or 4,000 rupees to release each body. So the villagers protested, and then the hospital finally provided an ambulance to send the bodies back to the villagers. Otherwise, earlier they were asking for money to even release the bodies of those who were killed in the so-called encounter. Next day morning, we went to both the villages. We got all the women to Bijapur. We took them to the collector's office. We tried to file FIRs. Not working. There's a case in Raigad where there is this woman who was picked up by the Jindal goons because her land is in this area where the Jindals have already built the university. And she refuses to give her land. They've already built the university, but her land is inside the university land, so-called university land. She has orders from High Court and Supreme Court telling the police to file her FIR. Police is still not filing her FIR. So, when we took this, so this is the case everywhere. In Bijapur, when we took them to the collector's office, the language problem that we were talking about, not just interacting with the people, it makes their access to any kind of legal justice, any kind of redressal very difficult. Because the WSS team, another team had already done this in October, we requested the collector that please call the police superintendent so that the testimony of the women and the FIRs can be done together so that they don't have to repeat everything again and again. Because they were giving interviews in camera with a lawyer, the Jagdalpur Legal Aid Group lawyer, and some translators who had come from the village. The collector refused. And these women have to talk, explain everything that has happened to them, all kinds of physical, sexual violence that's been brought on them. There were cases where one woman's head was wrapped in a mosquito net and she was raped, and right inside the door of her house, and then her mother-in-law was raped right next to her. There was a case where they threw a woman in a pond and then raped her. Like any kind of perversity that you can imagine, you know. They're doing everything, forcing the women to indulge in all kinds of sexual acts without their consent. So, repeating this again and again, so we requested the collector that please call the superintendent so that they don't have to do it. Usually they have to do it 3 times, 4 times. First in front of the collector, then in front of the police to file an FIR, then again somebody will go and re-investigate. So it becomes very traumatic also because they don't understand the language, they don't speak those languages, they are not, what do I call, what do I say, like, it's beyond them at present at least, you know. have access to it even in their heads. They can't think in terms of getting any legal redress, you know. So nothing gets reported also because of that. Okay, police, army came, raped us, life goes on, you know. But some women, we found cases of I think 13 or 14 women, and only about 8 women came, 7 or 8 rape victims or survivors or whatever you call it, they came. And so all the women don't even come out and report all these things. We were sitting in the collector's office from morning till evening. We were fighting, shouting. The police guys, the SPs and all, the SP and Kalluri probably were away. That was a time in January when they said there was a report that there was a Maoist couple who wanted to get married, and the Maoist party was not letting them get married. So Kalluri and SP and all were, I think in Raipur or Raigad or somewhere, and attending the marriage ceremony of this couple. And then of course they are, obviously they are always on encounters. So मैं encounter पे गया हूँ, मैं नहीं मिल सकता, तो ये regularly होता है. That was a very bad day actually. So then the police guys, the lower rung police people, they were like literally trying to run away, you know, and all of us trying to surround them and telling them, no, first register an FIR and then you go. And they're literally trying to run away, like outside the collector's office. We are like surrounding them, and they're trying to find ways to run to their bikes and ride away. And they said, नहीं, receiving ले लो, FIR नहीं करेंगे, बाद में करेंगे. There's a difference between receiving a complaint and filing an FIR. The ACP in Raigad told us that नहीं नहीं, ये तो झूठ बोलते हैं, हम पहले जांच करेंगे फिर FIR लिखेंगे. तो हमने बोला ऐसे तो प्रोसेस नहीं होता है, पहले FIR लिखी जाती है फिर जांच की जाती है. जैसे नहीं, आपको तो पता ही नहीं है कुछ, ऑब्वियसली हमें कुछ नहीं पता है. तो that happened. I don't know what else I can tell you guys about. Yeah, that's very interestingly, also very cliched manner, the kind of intimidation tactics that they use. So if you're going to the SP's office, the gates were open, so we entered, our vehicle entered, and suddenly this man standing there who's just a sipahi or something, he doesn't look at us, doesn't talk to us, calls the guard and says, ये लोग कौन है, कैसे घुस गए अंदर, and is screaming, shouting at the guard, you know, which is also a technique to try and intimidate us. And then they will obviously become very nice and say, oh, but what if we had shot, what if we had opened fire, who would take responsibility for this? And we went to SP's house, or the collector's house. So, and they were inside, but they refused to come out and meet. They sent the driver saying he's not inside. So all these things go on. No official will meet you. No FIRs will be registered. Nothing will be done. And it's not, in the sense I'm not saying it's very, it's a situation where you can't do anything. Obviously we need to do something. And we try to do whatever we can. The fact-finding teams are doing great jobs of going and bringing out these stories, but things are not very good, and they're not easy either. And this whole thing about gagging the journalists, not letting anybody speak. Also, it was very interesting that when we were going, we were taking all these jungle routes to avoid the camp and the police and everything. And when we get to Bijapur, not 3 days we stayed, not one person came and asked us who we were. So we were a little disappointed that police is not even coming and checking on who we are, you know. We are that insignificant, or it just doesn't matter, you know. Police are like, okay, fine, democratic rights people, human rights people, let them come do whatever they want to do. We will do what we want to do. It doesn't matter to them. Like, that's the kind of impunity and that's the kind of power that they exercise in that place. Little disappointing for us. But otherwise they will try to hamper everything. They will not meet you, they will not do anything. That happened. Then rest of the thing, we came back to Delhi, and before even we came back to Delhi, we were sending petitions to NHRC and all that. I think NHRC sent a team also, or some which team that had gone, DCW or something. There was a team which had gone, the government, NHRC, I think it was. But they went in this big group with police escorts, going to the villages, meeting women. They don't have the language. We can't talk to them. You go to them with such display of power. It's not like you go there and say, oh, I've come, I sympathize with you, and the women will come and talk to you. That doesn't happen. You know, it takes a long time to build that kind of trust, for them to open up and talk about things which are happening to them, which are so horrible. And so to get them to talk, to build that trust, it takes time. Nobody comes and tells you, oh, this happened to me. You have to keep going, you have to keep talking to them. And these government people, I don't know, they just go in with these big signs that, see, we have come. And that basically my issue is that doesn't yield any result. You know, we look for legal solutions, or we look for solutions from the government or something. I doubt that's coming. So that's, I don't know what else can I say. That was it basically.